Sapman people, it's Bobby, and welcome to the complete guide to combat in Rise of the Ronin. In this video, we will be talking about all of the different systems and styles of combat that can be used within this game, as well as a couple of tips around key usage and the different gauges that we can have. So settle in, it could be a bit of a long one, but hopefully I can cover everything that will be necessary for you to get through this game effectively, shall we say. We're going to start off by just taking a quick look at the equipment. There's not a whole lot to say here because I'm going to do a separate video on this and go more in depth on min-maxing your stats, looking at all these different numbers that come up when you see the equipment. I think it can look quite daunting because you have obviously equipment selection, you have all of these different numbers and stats and everything that can come up, as well as then having the 3 different styles, what should you use, etc. I'm going to go through this in a different video, but what I will say is if you're just playing through the story and you're not looking to min-max in any way, you're at kind of a low to mid player level like I am. I'm currently player level 28. That's about halfway. The max I believe is 55. You don't really need to pay much attention to anything except your attack or your defense stat. So the big number, essentially. You're going to pick the style of weapon that you like, and then you're going to pick the biggest number. So here I have 2 katanas next to each other. One is 244, one is 257. They have numerous stats attached to them. I'm using this one because it's 257, not because I want that attack against the panicked enemy, not because I want that aerial attack or that key consumption or solo attempt, just because it is the highest attack stat. There's no point in us looking further into it than that until we get to a higher level or until we have mastered and perfected a specific combat type. So that's why I'm going to leave looking at this for another video where I will go more in depth with that. But until the later game, it's pointless. You're going to switch out these things so often that there is no point realistically picking based on stats. Just pick the biggest number until you get to a further point in the game. As you can see, I've done the same thing with my sub weapon. I use rifles and bows, so I've gone with my highest stat rifle, my highest stat bow. My bow, the highest stat is an equipment level 18. I'm currently level 28. The rifle, my highest stat is equipment level 21. As you can see, I have higher equipment levels there, but they have lower attack rating, so I just haven't picked them. It's that easy. Armor, same thing. Just pick the biggest numbers and move on until the late game. Okay, so now that we're done looking at equipment, let's move on to the meat and drink of the video, which is going to be the combat styles. Now, in this game, obviously there are a whole host of weapons and a whole host of different combat styles. And essentially all they are is just the way in which your fighter fights and the moves in which your character will use, essentially. I'm going to use the katana as the focus point for this guide, just because it has the most combat styles and it helps to prove my point the best. But no matter which weapon you prefer or you use, this guide and all of these tips will work for you perfectly. And the reason for that is because all of these different combat styles that you can see, of which I will not try to pronounce because I will butcher them, all of them fall under 4 different types. Okay, and as we can see here, next to the total bonus number, we have the style type. They all fall under either a Jin type, a Chi type, a Ten type, or a Shinobi type. Okay, and essentially what these become is a big game of rock, paper, scissors. And if we look at different weapons, as you can see, there's an Adachi, Jin, Chi, Ten. Do we have a Shinobi there? No. Let's look for a different type. And they will surely do have a Shinobi on another weapon. Bayonet, polearm. There you go, Shinobi. So as you can see, they all have. Well, this has got all 4. Perfect. Jin, Ten, Chi, Shinobi. And it does become a big game of rock, paper, scissors, because if we go and look at this game's counter spark system, which is the parry or deflect system in this game, this is where these different types and these different styles come into play. So if we have a look here, The 10 style, when you're using it, is effective against katanas and normal weapons, but ineffective against sabers and lightweight weapons. The chi style is effective against adachis and heavies, but ineffective against katanas and normal. The Jin style is effective against sabers and lightweights, but ineffective against adachis and heavy. Essentially, like I say, a big game of rock, paper, scissors. So having these styles equipped is actually really important in a sense of, if we have a look here, if we go to my equipment on my katana, I have a shinobi, a chi, and a jin. I don't want to have 3 jin equipped here because it just doesn't use the system effectively. If I did, however, have 3 jin, like let's say I have 2 jin equipped and a chi, that wouldn't really matter. Like I can still attack effectively. My attacks won't do less damage just because they're ineffective. It works specifically with the counter spark system. So we go here quickly and have a look. Counter spark compatibility, it is specifically when you're parrying, and that's shown in the video there. The only difference to this is the unarmed style is counted as none, and it's just neutral to everything. So when you counter spark with a unarmed character, you'll just get a normal reaction to your parry or deflect. The shinobi style is classed as ineffective against all weapons, except when using a well-timed counter spark, in which case you will get a huge reaction, essentially like a long stun. That's essentially the way I can put it. It's like a long stun. So if we have a look at what I've got equipped here, I've got a shinobi, a chi, and a jin. What this essentially means is if I'm fighting against normal weapons and katanas, neither of these 3, when I parry, will give me a large stun or a large reaction. However, if I can parry with the shinobi against anything well timed, I get a huge reaction. It gives me a big advantage, which is the reason I've chosen not to go with 10, because even though you do fight quite a few katanas etc in this game, jin's neutral against them, and then shinobi will give me that big reaction against anything. So we'll go and have a look at this in play a little bit here. Just real briefly, if I can just find some enemies here at this public order site. Let's see if we can find one on their own. It'll just make it a little bit easier. There's a dog, I think. Okay, let's have a little look here. So as you can see here, I've got my thing out. There's a little red arrow there. I'm going to get rid of that enemy, and then we're going to get rid of the dog, and we're going to just show fighting. Oh, good dodge. There we go. We're just going to fight this guy here. We're going to try and drag him over if we can. What's his health like? Okay, let's drag them both over. So if I go to my Jin style here, I have, because he's using dual swords, my arrow is blue, as you can see there. I'm just going to move away from this guy. He's probably going to run back, but I just want to show you the arrows. The other guy who's using, it looks like an Odachi, has a red icon for this style. If I, let's get a bit closer to him. If I change to my chi, now this guy's arrow goes blue and the other guy goes neutral. If I change to my shinobi, they both go red, as we can see there, and that's how it works. So if I just get a normal, let's try and get a normal parry here. See the way he barely reacted when I parried that? Whereas if I go to, oh, this guy might not get to me here. If I can parry this big dude with this blue arrow, watch the... See that big stun there? And I had all day to counter that. And that's essentially just how this works. Let's just get rid of these guys and we'll carry on. But that is essentially how this works. So there, see, I'm neutral and I got a little bit of a stun. I didn't get too much. But if we can get a... Oh, hang on, that's a big attack. Let's just make sure we don't die. Yeah, but if we can get a... No, he's not. Come on, dude. Do your big attack. There we go. Look at that. He gets stunned for way longer, and I just get a massive parry timing on that. That is essentially the use of that counter spark system. And it is, I think it's the meat and drink of the whole combat system. If you can master that and get used to the different styles and start recognizing the weapon type that the enemy's using and quickly change to what you need, it becomes a whole different game to just what you will experience at the start, which is essentially you don't know what's going on. You'll just be trying to parry everything with anything, and you know, it opens up the whole game essentially, understanding this one key aspect of the combat. So make sure when you go and you play within your saves that you're taking good use of those different styles. Just to quickly just show you one more time what I have equipped. I have 3 different equipped. Try not to match up the types, so don't have 2 chi, 2 10, whatever. Definitely don't have 3 of one. Just take advantage of it. But if you're someone who has like super favorite style, you'll be fine, like as long as you're good at the other aspects, which we will get into in a second. But that is essentially how the counter spark system works. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is this game's guard or block. Now, it might seem a bit weird to talk about guarding or blocking, such a basic feature, after countering. But in this game, your guard is essentially used as a way of opening up your opponent for a parry or for a counter spark, which I will show you in a second. The guard in this game, your stamina doesn't get used up anywhere near as much as it does in other games. I think a big comparison is the FromSoft games. When you parry with your shield or you block, within a couple of hits normally your block is broken for the most part. In this game that isn't the case. You can block for quite a bit of time. Well, normal attacks anyway. So your enemies are going to have 2 types of attack. They'll have normal attacks, and they'll have an attack, a heavy attack, which they will use, or a martial skill, which they will use when there's a big red blood aura around them. And we're going to use our block on normal attacks and just dodge out the way of the red attacks. What this is going to do is give us a chance to view our enemy. Let's get this guy up here. View our enemy's moves, essentially. So we can learn where our best opening for a counter spark would be. So as you can see, red move, we're going to move out the way. And normal attacks, you can see he's done 3 there. So our counter spark opportunity would be during the 3rd. So that's a kick. Doesn't do anything after it, so there's no real opportunity there. 1, 2, and I missed it, but it's there. So that's essentially how this works. There's that kick again. Red means move. That's just bad dodge from me. Kick means nothing. 2. There we go. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And that's essentially how that works. Once you've learned it, then you block realistically. You don't really need to use it unless you're scared you're going to get hit. So there, I can just counter this guy now. And then just use skills, which I will show you in a minute. Oh, he's actually ran away there. That's crazy. They don't do that very often. But that essentially is how it works. Your guard in this game is just used essentially as a tool to learn your counter spark timing. And as you could see there, when I was fighting him, my stamina, when he was hitting me, really wasn't going down all that much. Obviously, at the start of the game, if you're at the very start, your stamina is going to go down a lot quicker. I am about halfway through, but it's still minimal compared to a lot of these other games with combat styles similar to this. So that is how to effectively use your guard in tandem with your counter strike. Okay, so now that we've talked about guard, we touched a little bit there on our stamina, or our ki as it's called in this game. They are literally the exact same thing. So if I hold down my right bumper button, you can see this blue bar that's appeared. The blue bar is the ki bar, the bar. The white bar is your health, and above it there is the blaze gauge, which we will get to in a moment. So ki is literally the exact same as stamina, and when it comes to managing ki within a fight, this game has a very specific technique called a blade flash that you can use. So whilst fighting, if you're on PlayStation, you can use the R1 button just after hitting an enemy in order to perform what is called a blade flash, and that will give you back an amount of ki based on something called the blood gauge. Okay, Now the blood gauge is essentially when you have your sword out. As you can see, my sword at the moment is clean. There is no blood on it. The more enemies you kill and attack and hit successfully will fill your sword up with blood. So your sword itself is your blood gauge. Now, if your sword is absolutely chocker full of blood and you perform a blade flash with R1 during a fight, you will regain a large amount of your ki back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and attempt to show you this. So if we can get an enemy to fight us, 1 minute. Let's get this guy to fight us. I'm just going to do this quickly, so it'll probably take quite a bit of damage here, so I best get my health items ready. But as you can see, the more I hit this guy, my sword is starting to fill up with blood. So let's keep hitting these guys. And then afterwards, if I press R1, that happens. That little blue aura, and as you can see, some of my ki came back. So let's have another look at that. Let's dodge out the way of that one. Let's get this here. Let's just fill it up a little bit here. There. And then if I click R1, look at all my ki come back instantly because of the blood I had on my sword. That is essentially how a blade flash works in this game. So if you can hit a bunch of enemies and then afterwards you press R1, you get your ki back. It's the way you maintain longer combos within this game. So in a moment we're going to go into comboing and how it can be used in order to just quickly dispatch of enemies. And it's all due to this blade flash that you're able to continue those combos. So you essentially fill up your sword with blood, and then from there you press R1 after the hit and you get it back. Just make sure you've actually hit someone, otherwise the R1 will not work. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is how a blade flash works. Okay, so once we've mastered counter sparks, managing your ki and also doing blade flashes, you'll be at a point where you're ready to start comboing. Combos in this game, basic combos anyway, can be quite easy to maintain once you get used to the button inputs essentially to maintain ki whilst hitting the enemy. And there's two techniques we can use in order to do that. If you're someone who likes changing weapons a lot in fights, so you press an R1 and up while you're fighting to change your weapon quite frequently, then you're going to want to use what's called a flash attack. And that's essentially pressing the hit button and then changing weapons immediately after, and you'll get this sweeping attack here. So hit, change, and you'll get that sweeping attack there. Straight after the sweeping attack, you can continue hitting. Okay, so as you can see there, that's how that works. That's called a flash attack. So what you would essentially be looking to do is hit, do it, hit. Once your ki goes, then you use your blade flash in order to get it back. Obviously mine didn't do anything there because I had no blood on my weapon. Yeah, but that's how a flash attack works. So if you're someone who likes switching weapons a lot, you can do that. If you're someone who likes to maintain the same weapon, you will use essentially the same move, but it's called a violent gale. So when you attack, what you will do is, when you're about to get to the end of your combo, so there, the fourth attack, what you can do is 1, 2, 3, 4, switch your style. Okay, and you can do it after the number. So you go 1, 2, 1, 2, and switch if you wanted to. There you go. You could do it like that, and you'll switch your style that way. It is worth noting that different combat styles will have different timings. For example, if I'm using this shinobi style and I do one hit and try and switch, it's much quicker. So yeah, let me try and show that again. If I hit and then do it there, it's got to be very, very fast. Otherwise, I will get a different move entirely. There, that move. So as you can see there, it just changes entirely to a different move. It's just worth noting, yeah. So those are the two types of moves we'll use. What we'll do now is we'll fly into the dojo and show this in action. Before we do that, it is worth noting that enemies, especially named enemies or bosses, are not just going to let you attack them endlessly. You are still going to need to dodge and parry or counter spark when they attack you. So be aware of their attacks. Don't just start spamming the square button, because if they hit you whilst you're mid combo, it will kill your ki. It absolutely murders your ki. Okay, and what I will do is attempt to show you how to do it effectively now in the dojo, and I'll also show you what happens if you get hit during a combo. You'll see my ki just deplete and I will get stunned. Okay, so let's quickly jump into that and I'll show you how that will work within a fight. Okay, this is what it would look like within battle. So we're going to start by just trying to learn what some of the attacks are. Probably shouldn't have tried to counter spark that, that's my own fault. When you get the counter spark, obviously you can go into it. You're going to be looking for his rebuttal. So there, so when I start attacking, he doesn't thingy forever, as you can see there. He starts hitting back, and as you can see, when I started trying to hit him during that, my stamina just got absolutely killed off. So you're going to hit a couple of times, then get ready to block yourself, and then you can get back in there. And look at that now. Now that I've actually maintained my combo during his attack, I'm just going to stop here so I can actually talk without having to concentrate. Since I hit my combo and then stopped to counter his rebuttal when he went to attack me back, I gained a massive ki advantage. So my second counter spark absolutely killed his ki and allowed me to go in there for a critical hit. So let's see if we can, how do I get out of this return? See if we can just show that one more time. So we come in here. Not a good chance that one. There, so we hit. We're going to wait for it, and we're going to look to counter charge. I just missed that one, that was my fault. So one more time. There, hit. Oh, missed. Counter. Counter. There we go. And we've got him. See, that is literally how quickly you can deplete an enemy's ki bar if you just time things right and don't get trigger happy. Don't fly in there spamming square, spamming the attack button after you get your first counter spark. Get your first counter spark, couple of attacks, start guarding, look to get that second counter spark, then fly in, use your violent gales, use your flash attacks, and you should get them down to a critical status where you can deal that chunk damage. What we're going to look into next is after you get those big stuns, how you can deal even more damage using your martial skills. I think this next part is going to be really important because your martial skills, I think, are one of the most misunderstood skills in the game. So let's get straight into that. Okay, so like I said, now let's take a look at martial skills. So just outside the dojo here, I'm just going to quickly show you what they are. They're essentially just the big or the special moves that you can do within your combat styles. So if I hold down R1, as you can see there in the bottom right corner, we've got our styles, and next to it, it's showing triangle, square, and cross symbols. And these are our martial skills. So if we hold R1 and press any of these buttons, we will do a special attack, as you can see there. And each style has its own different martial attacks that you can use. Some of them will just kind of change your stance and allow you to deal a little bit of extra damage or give you a short buff. Some of them, as you can see there, will almost give you quite a cool little phase and things like that. But essentially all they are is just special attacks that you can use. Now, in most games that have this kind of attack, you can literally just go up to enemies, start hitting them, and then spam these attacks. In this game, if you do that, just like you do when you're comboing and you just spam the attack button, enemies will counter you or hit you during whilst you're winding that attack up, and you'll take a large amount of damage and or a large amount of ki damage. So we're going to want to make sure we're using these attacks sparingly, mainly right after you get that big stun and you're about to do your critical. Use that as an opportunity to get in a quick martial skill, and then your critical, you'll deal a chunk more damage. And that's the best time you can use these skills. The only other time I would say to use these skills would be when you are, say, if you have an enemy, like a rank and file enemy really close to death, you can just use a martial skill to quickly finish them off. But I'm going to go back into the dojo now and show you how to use these skills effectively. Okay, couple of ways to get a martial skill in. First of which would be to wait for a red move, dodge, and then just use it. Second way is to wait for them to give you a counter spark opportunity, and then get in there with it there. Third way is to actually get his key all the way down. Then you're going to use your martial skill, and you're going to look to instantly. Let's just try and get him to. There we go. And then you could martial there straight afterwards. See that? You can get it in the other way round, but it's much tougher, I'll be honest. Couldn't see there because of the camera angle. So those are the three essential ways that you can do it. Like I say, when you get that critical, you can martial hit, then get the critical in. But it is way tougher to hit that. Like, it's just such small timing. So you're better using your critical. I tried to counter spark there. You're better using your critical and then ooh, I shouldn't have gone for that. And then, like I say, doing that. But anyway, I'm fighting for no reason here. Like I say, so the three ways. You can wait for the red, just small dodge, don't roll, you're giving up your timing. Small dodge followed by martial skill. Second way, counter spark on a blue arrow followed by a martial skill. If you're on a red arrow, you're playing with danger there essentially. Make sure you're on a blue arrow. Third way, deplete the key all the way down so you get the critical, then use your critical, then while they're on the floor, use your martial skill straight afterwards just to get that extra chunk damage. Like I said, you can, when they're in critical status, use the martial skill, then use the critical, but you have to be really close up already and really quick in order to do it. But that is how to effectively use your martial skills. Don't just spam them because you'll get killed. Only thing left to talk about now is using your key blaze. It's a really basic but quite cool feature, so let's get into that right before the end. Right, so the final aspect of combat in Rise of the Ronin that you're going to want to be aware of is the key blaze attack. It's a special attack that you can use whenever you build up your gauge to the max. So if you have a look at your key gauge there at the bottom, the one above it, the little yellow bar that I have partially filled, is the blaze gauge. You can fill this by just successfully executing different moves, your counter sparks, etc. And eventually, after fighting well and effectively, the blaze gauge will fill up and it will hold the triangle and circle icons above it. Well, on PlayStation anyway, whatever keybind you have should show up on your console. All it does essentially, if we just go to the battle here, as you can see, key blaze, it will set your weapon on fire, as you can see in the image above, and then it also improves your timing window for your counter sparks. It is quite noticeable, so you know, make the most of it. Anytime you get your blaze gauge, use it. Additionally, it'll give you a little small boost to strength, dexterity, charm, and intellect. So, like I say, anytime you get it, just use it. It's a cool little ability. It doesn't do some big crazy attack or anything along those lines. You do still have to fight normally. As you can see again in the image there, it just shows you a cool little cutscene. Your weapon goes on fire, and then from then it's back down to you and you doing your fighting. But like I say, just a cool little addition, I think. Just, you know, make the use of it. Nothing crazy, but like I say, cool nonetheless. With that being said, that is the complete guide to combat in Rise of the Ronin. If there's anything more specific that you would like me to go into more detail on, please leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to get on that. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to subscribe. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.